Forget frequently asked questions.
Common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
Go above and beyond.
they become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast
with Richard Jacobs.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast. I have a podcast host. Her name is JJ Flizanes. She's an author, a speaker, a trainer, and director of what's called Invisible Fitness. That's the website is invisiblefitness.com. She's the host of the Fit to Love podcast show. Also, Amazon bestselling author of Fit to Love, How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life. Author of Knack Absolute Abs. Named Best Personal Trainer in Los Angeles by Elite Traveler magazine. Very accomplished lady. She sounds like a real smart cookie. So, JJ, again, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
The law of attraction, and then you piqued my curiosity because you said you have a unique spin on it that has a science underpinning. Can you describe, what does that mean? And
let me give you just a little backstory. When I was growing up in school, I wasn't sort of that brilliant science math kid. In fact, it was abstract to me. And I did good. I was always on the honor roll. I had like A minuses and A's and B pluses and everything, but I didn't think I was smart. And I didn't understand the capacity of my brain and how I learned for many, many years. And when I started to learn personal training and I learned biomechanics, I started to see science differently because it became mechanical. I could see physical things. Like if you talk about a vector line in physics and engineering and biomechanics, like understanding how something is visual when it's not visual normally. Like you're talking about like air, right? Like if you talk about gravity, you can't see gravity, but you know it's there because you know what it does. And for me, learning personal training and all the sciences of personal training, including anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, and physics, those are the main, and then the endocrine system and biochemistry. And later on, everything that has to do with the endocrine system and your digestive tract, as well as your hormones. Like I just started to get into sciences and I realized, wow, I'm actually really good at this. I now understand science in a different way that it was taught to me in school. And I kind of struggled with feeling kind of out of place in different ways. And I'd gone to a therapist who said to me, well, honey, you're gifted. And I said, what? And she said, well, you're gifted. My mother created the system that tests people who are gifted. And I thought, well, okay, part of me liked that. It really made sense. Why I felt like a black sheep or a fish out of water a lot of times in terms of trying to explain things that I could understand to others and them not get it, or have like a doctor who's really good in one area of science when I'd explain, let's say, stretching, and I'd explain the science of biomechanics and physiology when it comes to tension in your muscles and your brain's activity connecting to your muscles. And when you think of stretching, it causes tension, which actually hurts you. Anyway, I'd explain certain sciences and they wouldn't get it. And I would think, but you're a doctor. You've learned science in all these other areas. Why don't you understand this concept? I'm explaining it. Yeah. So it took a long time for me to really wrap my head around this idea that while I didn't grow up again in a feeling smart in a scientific way, I apply things in my brain. I really appreciate now how my brain works very differently. In a training that I had done for some of my local clients and friends and family, in the area of nonviolent communication, based on the work of Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, I had to take a step back because the concepts that were being taught were things that I had already learned. I'd already taken the courses and the classes. I was considering becoming certified. And I didn't really recognize how I learned until I had all these people in a room and the instructors were teaching the same material I had already learned. And then they all came away really confused. And they said to me, and I really thought, oh my God, what do you mean? Like, this was life-changing for me. What are you not understanding? And then I realized that my brain, if it doesn't make sense in the order that it's presented, my brain would quickly rearrange it to make sense of it. And then I'd go, oh, okay. but I'm not linear thinking that way. And where someone says, well, here ABC, and if I don't understand it, I just check out. So it's taken me to this point to recognize that I have been tested in terms of like 50% left and right brain. And so I really focus on something like the concept of law of attraction. For a lot of people, especially in the scientific community, they want to poo-poo it and think that it's a belief system. But what they don't understand is that it's physics. And when you apply physics in the areas of frequency and vibration, it's a game changer.
Well, one quick question. One model of how people learn is that, they're auditory or kinesthetic or visual. So, how do you put yourself against that template? Like, what would you say you are?
Well, I would say I'm auditory because I would listen to a lot of CDs and learn that way. But then again, when it comes to the science and math piece or science in general, when I could see it work, there was a CD program made by a company called Atom. This is years and years ago. I don't know if they still exist. And it was the first time, because I had taken so many physiology courses within personal training certifications. And every time they would draw those dumb muscles on a whiteboard, and they would break down each spindle and then cut the muscle in half, and there are more spindles, and cut it in half, and like learning all the different layers of tissue in a muscle and muscle fibers and sections of muscle. It just never would click into my brain. Like I couldn't see it. I mean, yes, they were drawing me pictures, but then they were discussing the action potential, the electrical part of the brain that creates a muscle contraction. Now, between action potential and muscle contraction, there's a lot of chemical and electrical changes that happen. I don't know how many, but there's a lot. And again, you can explain it to me verbally, auditorily, but I may not understand it because I need a picture in my mind. Because obviously you're not going to take a muscle out of my body, put it on a table, and it's going to work the same way. So in order for me to understand that, I needed a visual to make that science more, real for me. And so I would say I'm a little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. I guess that's why we're podcasters, by the way, because we're auditory. So like with books, I'll listen to audiobooks and I don't read nearly as much. So that's why I wanted to ask you, how you feel like you're geared. But so going towards, what you're calling quantum physics and vibration and frequency. So tell me a little bit about the law of attraction as it's normally stated, and then what's your spin on it?
Well, again, I think that most people oversimplify it, and they think it's saying some affirmations and putting pictures up on a wall and creating a vision board you never do anything with. And I like to make the comparison that a vision board is like a treadmill. It only works if you use it, but most people don't know how to use it because they don't understand the whole point of it. Like when The Secret came out in 2006-07, oversimplification, great movie for the, again, visualization of when thought transfers like a radio wave. There were really great parts about that movie to educate people on the power of law of attraction because it could create a visual for frequency. And we all understand it when we talk about, let's say, the radio, which who listens to the radio anymore? But okay, so let's just say the radio, right? It's usually like something that's on demand. But let's say you listen to 102.7 FM, but your dial is set on 95.5. Well, you can't hear what's on 102.7 if you're set for 95.5. It's the same machine. It's the same car. It's the same dial. It's the same time and space. What's the difference? The difference is the frequency. We all understand it when we're talking about phones and when we're talking about, when you have two people who are calling each other, and how do you connect when you're not in a line anymore, right? It's this invisible line of frequency that connects one phone to another. We're on Zoom right now, right? Like what makes this line different than the 20 million other lines that are simultaneously happening right now? Well, it's frequency.
Well, also too, when you speak to someone and they're distracted, you could hear it in their voice. So even if you're on the same frequency and the connection's great, the person could be filtering out what you're saying or just not paying attention, and it still won't come through the info.
Well, that would be frequency in the physical form of frequency. So like our connection right now. But where humans need to understand frequency in terms of law of attraction is how we emit information, how we emit a frequency from us. Like we are a cell tower in ourselves. And that frequency is our emotions, our belief systems, our level of, again, openness, surrender, trust, like depending on what you're feeling, that is a frequency. Have you ever met somebody who is worried all the time, wondering what bad things are going to happen to them, and then bad things happen to them?
Yeah. What this brings to mind, some days if I'm, I don't know, in a bad mood or something, I'll feel like everyone's a jerk at the stores I go to and everything. And I'm sure it's probably me, because other days I go around and I'm in a good mood and I'm relaxed and everyone seems very nice and helpful. So I'm sure what I give off comes back to me. It's processed by the other people and it affects how they react to me.
Well, again, here's the frequency. So have you bought like a car recently and then all of a sudden after you buy your car, you see them everywhere on the road?
Yeah, it's happened. Yeah.
It's a pretty common experience most people have. Well, does it mean that all of a sudden everyone else bought that car? Or does it mean you're now tuned into the frequency of that car?
Yeah,
So,
you tuned in. Your awareness of it has grown.
right. So when you're in a bad mood and that's what you're leading with, that's the frequency you're in. So let's give it emotion. Maybe you're frustrated. Your dominant vibration is frustration. Then you're going to pick up and be in alignment with anybody else's frustration. So yeah. So people are mirrors for us to show us and reflect back to us a lot of times where we are if we're not clear. And again, there are multiple levels of being. Like we're all living a different reality. If you're not aware of that, like everybody can pick a frequency and it doesn't mean that things aren't happening at every level. I used to explain it to people like in corporate settings and speaking to corporate environments for customer service and whatever. Imagine like a multi-level office building and it's all the same building. It's all the same stuff, but if you're on the first floor, you don't know what's happening on the third floor. Right, and yeah. It's the same way, like emotionally, like if you're in an emotion of a low vibration, let's say frustration, anger, sadness, fear, disempowerment, depression, that is a reality. And I'm not saying it's not real. It is real for you because that's the frequency you're on. But simultaneously, there are wonderful things happening in frequencies you're not connected to because you have to be the receiver of that frequency to be in alignment with what's going on at that frequency. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like, maybe it's like being a kid and two adults are having a conversation and just because, it's out of your awareness, they can say things and communicate things that are just totally, over your head or outside of your experience.
Yeah, that could be something. Have you ever watched like a movie multiple times and every time you watch it, you see different things each time?
Yeah, or read something or heard something. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. So we have we get the messages that we're in alignment with at the time. And then the more that you are in alignment with that, you are able to hear something new. The more you do it, the more you hear different things. And also the mood that you're in. I mean, another example would be people looking at the same situation, like let's say a tragic situation or something to one person could be tragic, but to others, it's not a big deal. I mean, the way that we respond as humans to our stimulus and our environment isn't a preset like A plus B equals C. There are so many factors that determine our interpretation of that experience. I mean, I used to grow up thinking that people were stupid and not in I wasn't trying to be mean or disrespectful. I just didn't understand why I was looking at a situation. Let's say maybe it was something where I felt someone was being mean to somebody else or something. And I would get upset about it. And I would look around to see who else was upset. And I'd see often that not everybody was upset. And I would think, what's wrong with you? Why are you not upset about the situation? And so for me, when I understood law of attraction, astrology, like all the different tools that I use that separate and give us meaning for how different people interpret things, all of a sudden I recognize the multitude of interpretations people can make in any given situation at any time. So what is the common thread? What's the common denominator? The lens at which we're looking at the thing, like us, where we are, what we're experiencing. So again, the top misconceptions again about law of attraction is that it's a belief system, like a religion. It's not. That it is sort of some wooey-fooey, unprovable thing, and it's not. It's quantum physics, and it's been around for over 100 years. And the frequencies that we live with every day are the same frequencies that we have going on in our bodies when it comes to our emotions. So we emanate whatever, again, belief system, picture in your head, emotions, dominant emotions that live in your subconscious and your conscious mind, and we put that out into the world. And what we get back is a reflection of where we are, not what we want. So again, another aspect of what I think a misconception is for law of attraction in a scientific sense is that people think, well, if I do positive thinking, if I say affirmations and I'm a positive person, like I'm white knuckling it, right? I'm white knuckling it. Most people don't realize that 12% of their brain is conscious and the other 88% is subconscious, which means that 88% of your subconscious mind are the belief systems, the habits, the patterns, the interpretations that you had from 0 to 8. And some of them you don't even recognize you have, but they're the ones ruling your life. They're the iceberg, what's underneath the water, right? The big the little one on top doesn't do anything, but it's the big iceberg underneath that's really going to stop the ship from moving forward.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
So for a lot of people, they think, well, I'm being positive. I'm choosing positive thinking. Why do I keep having these bad things happen? And the great thing about law of attraction as a teaching modality for life is it's always like feedback. It's excellent feedback to show you where you are and to let you know, hey, you believe this, or you have a fear of this. That's why you keep attracting that. And we have choice, we have power. We are empowered beings to decide if we want to let things like that rule our lives and be a victim of circumstance, or we get to decide how we can change what we're doing, heal some of that stuff, and attract at a different level. How I even got into all this, my most important sort of mind-blowing moment was back in 2002 when I heard Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham, say, "You are the creator of your own reality." And for whatever reason that day, it hit me so hard and so clearly, because it meant to me, well, if I'm the creator of my own reality, that's good news, because that means I can change my reality if I don't like what's happening. It was so empowering that it's literally changed the course of my life since then.
Well, in the spirit of that, so what are a couple of tricks for people listening if they're, I don't know, if they're upset about something, how do they change their mindset? How do they change their day? Or if, they really want something to happen in life, they want to get pregnant, they want to get a new job, they want to, whatever it may be, like with your spin on the law of attraction, how can they get these things? How can they put themselves in the right, broadcasting mode and reception mode?
That's a really big question, because I have an entire podcast on that, right? Like that's like every podcast episode is how to use the law of attraction pretty much in a different way, or understand it differently, or apply it differently. Because what we're doing is we want to be curious. I'm going to first say that you have to make a choice. There are only two ways to proceed and two ways to interpret your role in your life. When I heard that you're the creator of your own reality, and I repeated that a few times to other people, I noticed how some people did not receive it positively. I did. I was like, that's awesome. That's cool. Because guess what? I care about my life. And if I want to change it, that means I get to. But some people would hear that and feel shame. And they'd feel, no, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. What are you saying? That I did this? I'm bad. I'm not good enough. I'm getting something that I deserve because I'm not a good person. Like I was amazed at the opposite interpretation of that statement, because it was meant in positive, again, empowering energy. And some people received it the opposite of me. So first we have to decide that, and it really comes down to two things. You either, and I'm going to say this is what I dive into in my show, different belief systems and different things that you believe. And have you questioned your beliefs? Are you curious? Do you know what your relationship is to a higher being? Do you believe in reincarnation, or is this your only life that you have? Are you an atheist? Blah, 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 like all that, right? Because if you don't understand what your beliefs are, because that's the basis of everything that you do. Just to give you an example, if you are an atheist who believes that you only have one life, and this is not a judgment, by the way, anyone, if that's who you are, that's cool. I'm just going to say, from my point of view, if I was an atheist, I would feel a sense of anxiety. I would feel a very, very burdening sense of responsibility. And I'd feel some scarcity of time, that if this is my only life, that I'd feel pressure to either do something with it, to do it right, to do good for the planet, because I'm not coming back. I feel like, and maybe or I'd feel apathetic, one of the two, right? So that's, if you don't believe anything past you, then maybe there's a constant searching for meaning, or searching for answers, or searching for security or safety. Maybe you're chasing money too much because you think that's going to make you feel better. Yeah. And I'm not saying that atheists have all these problems. They're probably very happy atheists. I'm just giving an example of a possibility of an interpretation. Now, on the flip side, I've spent literally since 2002, or even before that, studying all different walks of life and belief systems, and in ancient Eastern and Western traditions, and gathering information to make sense of what I believe and to be able to articulate that. So if you understand what you believe, that's your point of view. That's your perspective. If you would believe that you are here multiple times, you never get it done, you never get it right, you come here to expand, learn, and grow, and you come here to have a good time. And that while you may have incarnated in this lifetime with a plan and for a reason, like to learn something, you still have the power of choice when you're here. Now, that's more of my belief, which makes me a little more relaxed because I don't feel responsible for changing the world. I feel passion about offering a gift or an idea, and I feel comfortable in those who are attracted to it and those who aren't. It's not my responsibility to change anybody. I do the best I can. I follow my internal guidance system. I follow my own integrity. And I also trust very deeply in the process of life.
Well, I got a question here. So what if you don't have it all figured out? I mean, I feel like I don't. There's certain things I'm not sure what to believe. Like let's say, in terms of theology, you're an agnostic person, or you're just not sure, or in other aspects of your life, you're unsure. Then you can't say, all right, I know what I believe. So then what do you do?
Well, while I painted that picture of an example of a foundation of your belief in life, I'm not by any means suggesting that you have to figure all that out before using law of attraction. I just want to sort of, here's the foundation of where we react from, where we interpret from, where we compare things to. And I would just want to put out for people, if you don't know, I'm not saying that there's a right answer, but there does need to be a slight curiosity of your own thinking, not of right or wrong or what is out there, but what do you believe? What do you feel? Because law of attraction is based on feelings. It's based on emotion, and emotion that you feel in your body, not that you think in your head. So we can't have a positive thought without a vibrating positive feeling literally in your body, in your cells. Otherwise, it's all in your head, and your subconscious, which is again 88% of your power in your brain, will emanate a different frequency than you think you're putting out in your brain. So for someone to very simply start using law of attraction, again, the decision to make, it isn't about researching what is about life and death, but the decision to make is to decide if you're a victim of circumstance, if that's a comfortable place for you to be, which by the way, that will never feel good, like a long term. But just notice if you blame circumstances for your feelings or for your situation. If that is the case, and that is a choice, and you have every right to make that choice, then just recognize that that's the position you're in. You feel that others are responsible for something that you feel or something that's happened to you. And again, I'm just letting you know that that's a disempowered point of view. Now, on the flip side, what I think is a better way to go, because at the end of the day, let's imagine we don't know. So let's say I'm going to die in 10 days from now. And in 10 days, I have a choice to believe and trust at a level that makes me calm. It brings me joy. I have peace and happiness. And in 10 days from now, when I cross over, I find out I was wrong. Okay, well, then I was happy for 10 days. But if I'm concerned and worried and in disbelief and resistant and victimized and depressed because I'm not sure what the truth is, and then I die and find out I was wrong, well, then I wasted 10 days where I could have been happy. So to me, it's as simple as if you choose to take full responsibility for yourself and you start to get curious and you start to listen to your intuition and you do things that feel good. You do things that feel good to you, that feeling good, feeling happy, feeling free, that your emotions are important to you. I mean, that's really the first step, is to get out of the rat race of achieving, of whatever. Like, notice that, and this is a really great law of attraction quote, anything that you want, so listen up, I'm going to say it again, it's really important. Anything that you want is only because you think you'll feel better when you have it. So the trick of law of attraction is that you think you want more money, or you think you want a relationship, or you think you want better health because you think you'll feel better when you have it. But the trick of law of attraction is you have to feel better now to get it. And then when you feel better now, you don't even need it because you were just aiming for the feeling in the first place. So how do I feel more empowered? How do I feel more joy? How do I feel more freedom or more security? If you can identify some of those feelings for yourself, then and focus forward. It's another law of attraction, focusing forward. What do you want? Because on the other split side of, left versus right, yes versus no, on the dichotomy here of your choices, you're either complaining about what is and looking at what is, or worried about the future, or you're creating it. So instead of, because if you wouldn't drive a car and look in the rearview mirror the whole time because you'd crash, right? But you'd be driving the car and the car moves forward. So every thought you have, every action you take, every feeling you feel, everything that you do is creating your next outcome, is creating your future. So when you're stuck in a situation that you don't like, you can pivot and go, well, what do I want to create? What do I want to have? And how does that feel? Oh my God, that feels so great. I did that in my last marriage. I knew I'd get the relationship of my dreams, not knowing that it wasn't going to be from my husband. But I stayed in this positive vibration with no evidence that it was ever going to work out between he and I. But I had hope and I had belief. I had this deep belief. And so I did these practices of appreciation, of always milking the good stuff, not spending time complaining or looking at what is and complaining about what is. That doesn't mean I don't get sad. Let me just say that right now. This isn't like I'm not bulldozing, I'm not taking the white fisting knuckles and refusing to feel pain. Not at all. But it's being able to experience pain in contrast and then say, okay, this is what I don't like. What do I want? Because I'm tired of this crap. And then you decide to visualize what you want and head in the direction of that. And then again, we're looking for things that make you happy, things that light you up, things that speak to you, being in integrity with yourself. I mean, there's a million. I run a 30-day manifestation challenge. And the next one will probably be, the free one will probably be in February or March of 2021. And in that 30-day manifestation challenge, people just commit to taking 5 to 10 minutes every day to do something to get them in a higher frequency, AKA better feeling place. And that could be anything from meditating to writing an appreciation journal to what's called rampage of appreciation, where you're literally just, you're going on and on and on about like what you appreciate. What it's like you asked if it's auditory or visual, or it's literally taking like an appreciation list, but doing it verbally out loud to somebody else. There's, dancing, taking a bath, listening to upbeat music that really inspires you. Lots of different things that people can do to, again, get into where we're all wanting to be, which is feeling better.
Well, I have a question. I've talked to a number of people over the years, and I see it's like a similar phenomenon. So I'll talk to someone about, let's say they're, unhappy with their relationship. And I'll say to them, well, how about this? How about that? How about this? And I'll point out something to them that they agree with, but they go like, I know, like they sound resigned, and they're never going to do anything to change it. And I've noticed that it's like that same sound that people have when you tell them stuff that, again, seems like they seem to agree with it, but they also just don't seem to have the energy to change it. Like, have you encountered that phenomenon, and how would you characterize it?
Yeah. Yes. I have and I haven't. So I end up attracting people who may be stuck in not knowing how to change it, but ultimately they believe they can, or they're looking for how can I? Because we all have upper limits of how much joy, love, success, and abundance we think we deserve. And again, some of this goes into core wounds. Some of this goes into different, limiting beliefs that we have. So that person or those people that you're referring to sounds like they have a belief that either they don't deserve better or that they're stuck and they can't get out of where they are. Because one of two things: one, they don't know they have choice, or two, they're unwilling to do the work to change it.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, because it's just weird, it's weird to me to hear that. And it's like this resignation, so I was wondering where it came from. And
there are several reasons for it. And again, I would say another thing to think about is some people get into codependent situations, or again, like habits in relationships, whether it be with kids or spouses or family or parents, where and I think this is why this paradigm is so strong in our society and why people don't want to take responsibility for themselves, is because if I complain, you give me attention. A lot of people get love and attention from being sick, hurt, and complaining. And that's how they get brought up, that they're, that they get love from you. And, when someone walks in the room and says, oh, this is a disease that I have, and everyone goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So they get trained that if I lead with that, I'm going to get compassion and sympathy. So without knowing it, without understanding it, they're really just trying to find love, but they keep exercising like a really low frequency that then never gets them out of that. So whether they want to get better or not, I trained somebody like that for a long time. I had this client who she was very obese. She wasn't bedridden, but she didn't move very much. And I saw this. I tried everything. I'm super creative in all the different ways to help empower somebody, from the exercise to the food to the mental and the mindset. And I was so impressed with myself with how many things I came up with for her to try and to do. And there was one point that it just clicked within me. I thought, oh, she doesn't really want to get better. Now, she's not aware of this, but her husband treated her like a queen and waited on her hand and foot. And her son actually paid for me to give her private sessions. And I thought, what's the risk of getting better for her? If she got better, all of a sudden people stopped doting on her. And
that's interesting.
And I realized, I went, oh, she's never going to get better, because and that's when I kind of gave up and thought, all right, I'm done here, because you don't want to really get better. But again, if you would have asked her, do you want to get better? She would have said, of course I do. But again, it's that really strong subconscious that we don't even recognize sometimes our behaviors and our patterns until you take a step back and start to get curious about some of this stuff.
That's funny. That's really interesting. Huh. So, I don't know how much more you want to go into it, but what are some action steps for people? It sounds like they should definitely, if they want to take this journey, they got to listen to your podcast. But what other things can they do? Is there a book you have on this? Is there a course you've made? What are your suggestions for people?
Yeah. I mean, my show, my podcast, and I have a lot of podcasts, but the podcast in particular is called Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. Again, that's Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. It's my most popular show, and it is based in law of attraction. However, we do deal with health stuff and relationship stuff, because as you can hear, this applies to every aspect of your life. And I will tell you that the show is for you if you're someone who is at all feeling hope or positivity or energy after hearing me on this episode. If you have resistance to it, that's also an indication that I'm hitting a chord. Like I'm being a catalyst right now, and I'm hitting a chord. And if you hate me, oh, you really need me. But if you hate me, you're not ready for me. But keep it in the back of your mind, because I have people that come and say, when I first listened to your show, I was like, oh, hell no. And they turn it off because I strike a chord. Now, obviously, I don't know you. I don't know you personally, so how can I be attacking you? But if I hit a chord that you're not willing to deal with, some people go away and then they come back later when they're ready. Because again, I'm not saying that you are bad or incomplete or unlovable. I'm not saying that everything that you have attracted have been things that you want or that you have deserved. There is no judgment. I'm saying that I believe that you incarnated in this body in this lifetime for a reason. You have lessons that you set up before you even got here. And the power that you have now is to accept this path that you've created, because you're here, and do what you can to have a good time while you also learn to grow as a person and to heal whatever needs to be healed for you to help give your gifts to the world. So if you're interested in any of that, again, follow me on Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. You can follow me on Instagram at JJ Flizanes. I do have a 30-day free manifestation challenge, but I will strongly encourage you to first listen to my show. I actually monitor who comes into that Facebook group very closely, because if you haven't listened to my show, then you may not be in alignment with my energy and my message. And I want people to really thrive. I want them to get the most out of it. So just be clear that if you're attracted to my energy or to what I'm saying, something inside of you says, oh my God, I need that, then definitely, subscribe to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. If you are not, and you're like, oh my God, she's whatever, you just don't like me, that's totally cool. So don't bother. Don't sign up for my manifestation challenge. Don't listen to my show, because you have to be ready for the lessons that are being, given to you. And it's not that I'm saying I know everything. Please, if you listen to my show, you'll hear me talk about all my struggles and vulnerabilities and things I've learned. And my people have been with me for 5 and 6 years on my show, because a lot of them have grown with me. They've seen my transformation and my continual, they join programs and masterminds, and they do things with me because I'm constantly growing. I'm always pushing the needle on that. And I'm always encouraging others to do the same. Whether you do or not is on you. I have no pressure for anyone. Again, I'm just trying to empower you to love your life, to get out of victim mentality, to take back your power in all ways, health, relationships, and belief systems and emotions, and to live your best life, period.
Yeah, that's excellent. If people didn't like you, I don't think they would be listening this far. So, JJ,
True.
It's been really cool talking to you, and you have a good energy about you, and thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Richard, for having me so much.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
You've been listening to the Finding Genius podcast with Richard Jacobs. If you like what you hear, be sure to review and subscribe to the Finding Genius podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And want to be smarter than everybody else? Become a premium member at findinggeniuspodcast.com. This podcast is for information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed.